Hello, my name is Prime, and welcome back to American Truck Simulator, and also welcome to part 2 of the 2025 long haul series, where I'm completing one of, if not the longest delivery available in American Truck Simulator. And so today's route will take us from where we left off here in Fort Stockton, and we're going to head just north of Farmington, actually into Colorado, just barely outside of Durango, and we're in for another long drive, my friends, as today's anticipated journey is going to be roughly 630 miles and take just over 11 hours in-game. So without further ado, let's get our Freightliner Cascadia started up on this beautiful Texas morning and get on the road. All right, let's get rolling. Hopefully everyone's doing well. I certainly am, and it is great to be back here once again in American Truck Simulator part 2 today of this long haul series. And actually, we're going to avoid the fuel station there because we fueled up just as we pulled in to this station yesterday evening in terms of game time, or last Saturday in terms of video release time. And I must say a huge thank you to to everyone who enjoyed that video, and also to everyone who is supporting the series thus far and all the interaction and so on. It is absolutely amazing to see, and once again, thank you so much for the support on it. And I am very excited to see where this series goes in the future, because as I mentioned in the previous episode, and of course I'll continue probably to talk about in the episodes to come, there is a lot of room here for some very exciting deliveries of varying lengths in terms of long haul. But this longest delivery in American Truck Simulator series is something that I'll do on an annual basis, at least as of my plans right now, which again is very exciting for things moving forward, especially as the American Truck Simulator map expands. But I have read a bunch of your comments. Thank you very much again for your input, and I have some interesting topics to talk about here, and one that I think will mainly devour, shall I say, most of our delivery today, which again is pretty long, but we'll get into that in just a few moments at time. But of course, the engine sounds that you're hearing today and across this series, it is static, is going to be from the engine and transmission compilation mod, a fantastic plug-and-play mod that is available on the Steam Workshop. And as always, whenever I'm covering mods or any other extra content for whatever game it may be, specifically here on American Truck Simulator, always have the links down in the description below. Trust me, they are safe links if they are in my description. I make sure of that, and I am not going to try and scam you. There should be nothing that is wrong with the links down in my descriptions, unless if someone takes over the channel. But at that point, I'm going to be honest with you, there are bigger problems at play if the channel gets hijacked, which I don't plan on that ever happening. I do take care of my online safety, which would cause any potential breach, but you know what, the internet is the internet and things can happen, but let's hope that never happens, my friends. But long story short, Steam Workshop mod, and the link for it is down in the description below if you're wondering what is at least the sound for this Freightliner Cascadia 5th Gen. So this delivery is going to be longer than the first look, or shall I say the first episode, part 1 of the series. This is going to be 2 of 5, at least as of the plan right now, unless if something happens along our journey as we go. Fingers crossed it stays the same, or stays the way it has been, and there's no issues. But again, I am Prime Simulation. Something very much could happen in the few episodes here. We are covering many miles, and we never quite know what's going to happen, but we're gonna hope for the best. Let's just say that. Part 2 of 5 is a long one here. Obviously, we're going all the way up through New Mexico and even into Colorado, and actually we got to get over here. There we go. All the way through New Mexico from here in Texas, and I was trying to figure out, as I was planning the route, and let's just go with this way, trying to space it out in ways that are, shall I say, achievable for the sake of a video. I could obviously do a really long video in terms of, well, just all in one shot. It would have been crazy to record it. I don't think I would have survived it, to be honest with you. My voice nor my patience. I think the break is good for both you and me. However, I have heard the request, a few requests and a lot of interactions on the request for a full compilation once the series is complete. And my friends, I am happy to say that that was kind of in the back pocket, shall I say, in terms of a plan and just seeing how things were going. But I was going to bring that up in a future episode and say, hey, what do you think? Should I put this all into a compilation? All of the different episodes, make it almost like a marathon video. And, well, those words exactly, a marathon video, were commented. Thank you very much, by the way. Took the words right out of my idea books, which is fantastic. I'm so happy that we're all on the same page. So that will come once the series is finished. That will be a special upload here on the channel. That is for sure. Just a special montage, shall we say. And maybe you're watching the montage video or the full marathon video, and, well, you're listening to this part of it. Well, there you go. A little bit of, I don't know, is that what form of dimension is that? I really don't know, but it's something just only available here on YouTube, I would say. All right, let's talk about a few things. Moving on from the delivery itself, obviously I said this is going to be one of our longer legs, so we've got our time cut out here for us, which is of course exciting, and we're gonna have to merge over, so we're gonna let, I guess, the trucks go ahead of us here, and hopefully they keep a decent pace. Again, I guess only time will tell. Yeah, won't it? Once again, thank you so much for all the comments on the first look video, and of course the support there. Fantastic to see. And among the comments and different ideas that we'll talk about here in the coming episodes, and potentially even flowing into the ATS showcase series afterwards, especially for comments that may come into sections 4 and 5 of this delivery, may not be able to touch on everything. One of the biggest things, and one of the main comments that was asked, is my thoughts on the American Truck Simulator map and potential expansions, different cities, and so on. Now, for today's episode, and one that I think will probably take up most of this episode in terms of talking, it's actually not about the US itself, as it appears to be an accident here. Again, another classic American Truck Simulator AI moment on a merge. Yep, saw one in the last episode. We're going to see probably a billion of those more, my friends, as we continue on here. It's actually not about the US in the States itself. It's about the surrounding expansion options for American Truck Simulator and what else could come on there and my thoughts on it. So first of all, many of you will know, and some of you may not, I have made it publicly known that I am Canadian. Now, with that said, Canada and US share the longest international border in the world, if I have gotten my geography correct, which I sure hope I have, given that I am in one of the countries that, well, border that. But we share a very, very long border. That border encompasses many provinces and states respectively. Very much a close logistics network, or at least was and still is realistically, but I won't get into the whole real world events that are going on right now. But let's just say things are a little bit different than they once were, and say what you will about that, or maybe not. Let's not go into that in the comments, because I don't really know where this is gonna go, but that's okay. Geographically speaking, and for many respects in terms of, you know, families, even on both sides of the border, the logistics network is crucial, and the businesses and so on, Canada to US, have a really close tie. Now, for American Truck Simulator, SES Software has always said that the reason why they called American Truck Simulator is that it is not USA Truck Simulator. It is American Truck Simulator, encompassing, well, what has been seemingly talked about as North America, at very least, versus, I guess, the European counterpart, obviously. That leaves a lot of room for expansion, and the other thing is that SES Software has had some little hints, shall we say, or little teaser elements of maps. Apparently, I've heard through the grapevine, and I have seen a few things up in the Washington state area and the states that border the western section of Canada. Currently, a little bit of, well, teaser areas or little bits of map just kind of poking into Canada as of right now. We're actually going to go, actually, no, we're going to stay here because it looks like we are going onto a different highway. We're going to be exiting right, so we'll stay in this lane for now. Be a little patient. Looks like there's a little bit of content moving up already into what would be British Columbia, even potentially into Alberta as well. But I'm assuming once we get, you know, the North Dakota DLC, the more prairie provinces will start to come into play with little teaser bits. But it begs the question, and I know a lot of you want to know, what are my thoughts on the expansion of the American Truck Simulator map outside of the USA, and specifically, what provinces will come in first in Canada, assuming that they come in? I'm going to say this now. I have an extremely strong feeling that we will get a Canadian province before the American Truck Simulator map is complete in terms of US states. I'm just going to say that right now. I feel that there is a lot of opportunity with expanding north into Canada in terms of, I guess, geography and businesses alike, and the very close logistics chain that do exist between the two countries. There's a lot of opportunity, there's a lot of business, there's a lot of goods that travel across the Canada-US border every single day. And I feel like that's a big important part for SES Software to play into. If they don't, I feel like they're actually missing a bit of an aspect of, and to be honest, even the American economy, because like it or not, a lot of goods go either way. Yes, as a Canadian, I can say there are plenty of American goods, and a lot of our goods obviously go back and forth across the border many times, specifically cars, for example, or even other goods, go back and forth plenty of times before they reach your end destination, whether it's here in North America or even abroad. That logistics network could really play a major part in American Truck Simulator in diversifying, to no surprise, the logistics network itself, but also making it more realistic, more opportunities, and potentially getting more into those company contract-based routes and deliveries where you're running various parts back and forth. And I'm thinking specifically with the automotive. I know it's talked about a lot in the news. Again, we won't go there too much, but we have to look at the logistical standpoint of how the industries work. Parts move across North America as a whole, including Mexico, many times between respective countries, little bits added in different places before they hit the final assembly wherever that plant may be. I'm thinking specifically with the automotive industry here in American Truck Simulator, being able to haul car parts to this other manufacturing facility and car parts to another one, even if it's not a specific cargo in terms of a car part. You know, for example, a certain element in a bumper or a dashboard or something like that. Even if we're not hauling that, we're hauling, say, aluminum to this facility, and then we're going like these casts to another facility, and then we're going the casts or this other product to another facility, and then obviously the chain continues through. I feel like that's a big opportunity. I mean, more specifically when you move eastern across the American map, and of course the Canadian map itself. A lot of automotive industry is more towards the central eastern side, shall we say, of the North American continent. Doesn't mean that items come from various areas. So, anyways, I do believe that we will get a Canadian province, and I personally would love to see that. Now, realistically, what province do we think we'll get first? I think I'd be lying if I said anything other than British Columbia, which is fantastic. I think any Canadian province, doesn't matter what Canadian province it may be, I think British Columbia will be the first one just because it is obviously very accessible for many individuals of American Truck Simulator, and specifically players that have early map expansions, specifically the ones that go up the coast, the west coast of the American Truck Simulator map. I feel like BC will be just the first go, get another coastal DLC in that sense. Plenty of industries, especially logging and other softwood industries, plenty of wood and other, again, a lot of other industries going through there. Of course, beautiful scenery as well. So in terms of other scenic opportunities, especially with Project Road Trip, I feel like British Columbia would definitely be a, let's say, key province to tap into first for the American Truck Simulator market. British Columbia also opens the door for going up to Alaska as well. That is another key corridor in terms of connecting the North American land states for the U.S. So in that terms, I would say eventually BC would have to come in, regardless of any situation. So I believe it will basically move west to east. It's very similar to what has happened here with American Truck Simulator in terms of the U.S. states. I feel like in terms of the Canada expansions in the different provinces, it will move BC, Alberta, and across. When those will come in and what key states do they move across to unlock, you know, in terms of the eastern side, I don't know. The interesting thing was SES Software kind of moving up into, well, where they are right now, with the confirmed of South Dakota and then into Illinois as well. Obviously, they're doing Louisiana down on the southeastern end, but again, there's a little pocket getting up to the Great Lakes territory where there's a lot of Canadian province against all of the western provinces to be able to go across. That would be interesting to see how that ties in. Again, lots of resources go back and forth. Will that happen sooner than later? Again, as a Canadian, I'd hope so. But that's just my 2 cents. I think they'll work west to east. Now, let's go south of the USA map and look more at, well, Mexico. What is going to happen there, if anything? This is where I think the waters get a little murky, shall I say? And it's just because of the relations, it's probably the best way to put it, as crucial as the cargo markets are between USA and Mexico. There's a lot of trade that obviously goes back and forth. There's no doubt about that. There are trucks that go across the border. However, to what I am aware, a lot more cargo goes across in rail and also by plane and ship as well. This is where maybe the transport or logistics side of American Truck Simulator could get, again, a little bit questionable on the Mexico expansion. I do feel that northern areas of Mexico, the northern regions, could be on the table. But again, it's how, well, it'd be how would the point of entries work, basically, and how would they expand that into American Truck Simulator in a realistic way? Or does SES Software just say, let's just expand into Mexico. We want to complete the full North American experience here and logistics network. We're going to cross over, even if a lot of cargo volume goes by other modes. Again, from what I've found, it seems like some other forms of transportation are genuinely the preference. Not saying that it's the primary. There are trucks that go across the border, but again, just mentioning that. Do they just say, let's connect it anyways, expand down into Mexico, more regions unlock, again, open up to more of the North American market? That could be interested in American Truck Simulator, because that is also the underlying factor. It's where is the market for the game to sell? And, of course, the various DLCs. Canadian expansions most likely would do very well, both from players all around the world, let's be honest. But again, the close economic relationship between Canada and US, generally speaking, would definitely be a benefit for the American Truck Simulator economy in terms of just the job contracts and realism as well. Into Mexico, again, another important area. However, there are some logistic issues to deal with, or maybe to bridge over and make it, for the realism side. Again, is it the end of the day? I don't think it is. I think it's not a big deal when it's all said and done. I think things could be still done going down into Mexico, and probably still will, but I would say Mexico expansions would happen quite late in American Truck Simulator. We don't know the future of the game. What is going to happen when all of the states are filled up in the USA, and inevitably much, if not all, of Canada is included in the game as well? Will SES Software take some creative liberty and just move down through and start going even bridging down into South America as well? That's where the big question mark comes in. If I'm going to be honest with you, I don't even know if I'd be alive by the time they hit South America at the rate that they're developing things at this point. It's hard to say. Or at very least, not playing American Truck Simulator. Not saying that I'm going to walk away from this game anytime soon, but at the rate that the US states and inevitably Canada and potentially Mexico are going to be expanded into, will we ever hit South America without a dedicated South American Truck Simulator? I don't know. This is almost the same question that happens on the Euro Truck Simulator side, is where does the boundary stop? How much of quote-unquote Europe has SES Software already covered? A lot of it. But then other areas of the continent, expanding more into the Asian side, or even into the, African side of things. They're getting very close to, they are very close to northern areas into the continent of Africa. Those are all expansion options for ETS 2 that, if the game wants to continue to evolve with new expansions and so on, that's honestly the logical step. It honestly is the logical step for ETS 2 side to expand that way. So, coming back to American Truck Simulator, can we really say that South America is completely off limits? Or for that matter, Central America and between it? I don't think it's completely off limits. Would it be highly realistic to have a delivery from South America be trucked all the way up through to, let's say, BC, all the way down, say, the west coast of North America? No. I don't think anyone is trucking goods from, let's say, in, Chile? Let's just choose Chile. Stay on the western side. I don't think anyone's driving from Chile all the way up through Central America up until BC. No one's doing it. And to be honest with you, I don't actually know, and I haven't confirmed this, honestly, but this is just my thought. I don't believe it's actually logistically possible. I think when you hit into South America, I don't believe there's actually road network that is viable to get trucks up through all the way. I could be very wrong. Maybe the reason why I am just unaware of this is just because the road, again, it's feasibility and someone would just fly goods or by ship. Goods would be transported that way, besides other trucking regulations as well. Maybe that's just the factor. Maybe there is road networks. Comment down below if there are, or if you want to do the extra research. I'll probably look at this honestly afterwards, so feel free to comment or not. I probably already know the answer by the time you're watching this, but that's a big factor. Where does the boundary stop? Where does the game essentially end in terms of physical expansion? And what would come next for SES Software, if anything? I feel like American Truck Simulator and ATS 2 are now the ride or die games for SCS software and just are going to continue to grow and evolve because of the platform they've built on it. We're seeing this with Project Road Trip in American Truck Simulator, with the expansion of vehicles, which a lot of people are very, very excited for. Of course, there are a few people that are very vocal about, and there will be in the community, people who maybe are against it in the fact that it may not be a traditional trucking element to the game. However, I know a lot of the community has been calling for drivable vehicles, and they are finally getting drivable vehicles. And the fact that they're branded, specifically with the Ford Car Pack coming up here soon, that will unlock Project Road Trip if you want to pick it up, that is a very big factor in the expansion of American Truck Simulator for other purposes other than just trucking. So is going down to South America completely unviable? I wouldn't say it is, because players could basically just pick up, say, base game American Truck Simulator, and maybe as the various regions tend to grow, your starting location of the base game could actually have, obviously, California, and Arizona, Nevada are in there now too, but then maybe there's an area down in South America that has a couple, like 1 or 2 areas or regions that are just available in base game. And maybe there's one even up here in Canada that you could start it without having the extra DLCs. And it's just part of it, just for expansion purposes. I think that would be incredibly neat. I think that would really open up American Truck Simulator for obviously a huge market, and maybe that's the direction SCS software is going. But it would also be completely customizable for the individual player. So if you're watching this and saying, well, I would never want to drive down in South America, or if I did, I only want to check out 1 or 2 DLCs. Well, that's fine. You may, if one, say, country was part of that general region, you could just basically start a save down in that region, and you would just expand from there, explore different cities, or get different DLCs if you want connected to that. It's the same premise that has happened here in American Truck Simulator, except now just talking about between North America and South America. All within American Truck Simulator, all based on an expansion. It's almost like some of the really large flight simulators that are out there, or even other games alike that have huge, just countless DLCs and expansion packs for you to just nitpick and customize the game to your very liking. And of course, and we gotta pull in for another way station, so we gotta go left here and go over to the left lane so we can pull in, because it's on the left hand side today. Anyways, it would allow for customization. So even if you didn't want to drive down there, you could still play American Truck Simulator in the USA. You could play it in Canada if that's where things go. To no harm. There would be absolutely no harm done. It would not cost you anything extra unless if you wanted to play in those specific regions. I genuinely believe that's where the game could go in the future. Now, this is long term. Again, am I even playing that game at that point? Are you playing the game at that point? I do not know. To be able to handle a game of that size, obviously computer hardware will continue to evolve over time. I'm not per se concerned with how that would go in terms of performance. The game engine will evolve, computers will evolve. What is seen as a crazy high-end computer right now would be basic in that at that point most likely, or not even existent, to be honest, on the scale of performance, because of how the technological jumps go. It's a really intriguing thing to think about, just really long term, almost in a more abstract sense. Just what could happen. Again, if you ask me today, I would say that American Truck Simulator will evolve to have, at very least, Canada fully fledged in the game. And are you gonna go ahead, SUV? No, you're stopping? I mean, admittedly, I went out so I could see if anyone was coming, but you could have just kept rolling through. I wasn't even in your lane yet, but that's okay. AI at its best. I do believe at very least it will be North American, long term. US states, Canada starting to come in probably very soon, to be honest with you, especially as there are some teaser elements for British Columbia already. And especially as we move eastward, some of that industrial ties get even closer. So again, Canada and US for American Truck Simulator, I can see being a very, very viable option. Mexico, bit of a question mark, but I think long term would come into the game once the rest of the map is complete and reworks are just occurring, if the game is still on a continual life cycle at that point. And then Central and South America is an absolute just shot in the dark in terms of what I think, but you've heard it. I've already talked about it. I do think if American Truck Simulator will stays as American Truck Simulator, the only version of the game, there is no other game SE Software is focusing on, American Truck Simulator and Euro Truck Simulator 2 and their related projects, I do genuinely believe that South America will come one day. That's probably in the absolute far-reach goals of SE Software, if they even have a vision for it. I don't even know if they would. And I wouldn't blame them if they don't, because that is so far down the line, not even in conception, I doubt it. Unless if there's another game that pops out of nowhere. But I don't know. To me, I would almost rather have American Truck Simulator be North and South America, and you get to choose, depending on the save, what particular, well, region you want to drive in. Would it be completely realistic to have, again, a full long haul from South America up to North America? Well, no, and I don't even know if that's logistically possible with roads. But it'd be kind of fun for the sake of game. You probably can't really deny that one for anyone who enjoys these long hauls. That would be a fairly interesting element to have available in the game if you wanted to. Again, would it be realistic? Maybe not. But does everything have to be by the book realistic in a simulation game? I don't believe so. And I am Prime Simulation. It's in the name. I like simulators. I try to be fairly realistic with how I drive. Am I perfect? No. Do I completely sweat about it? No. Am I mindful? Yes. Am I mindful mainly because I am going to get roasted by a bunch of people in the comments? That's an element of it, but it's also just the fact that I enjoy simulators for what they are. Generally speaking, a more relaxing but really fun element of a game that brings some real life to some, well, more carefree enjoyment if you let it go that way. And that's what I like about American Truck Simulator and genuinely how I do things around the channel, is that yes, there is realistic elements. I know a lot of you will agree. However, if something happens, we laugh it off and we move on. Is it the end of the day? No, and I don't think it should. So if there was something like, and we're gonna get by the traffic here. If there was something like, whoa, truck! Dude! What was I talking about? Realistic traffic? No, hey! International, what? Dude! Okay, well, now I'm not even in the lane. No wonder why they're still merging. Hey! Get, no! Peterbilt! Oh, my word, I gotta get back into this, to the AI. Oh, this game, dude. This game is going to put, oh, man. It's gonna put me over the edge one of these days, you know? Okay, I'm just joking, but still, like, it genuinely is going to give me a headache. A really, really bad headache someday. And I never get headaches, personally. I am very, very fortunate in that sense. I've only ever had a few in my life, and I was incredibly sick. But this game is probably going to get me there one of these days, because... oh, unreal. My headlights are still on because I got completely distracted talking about the expansion of American Truck Simulator. Well, just another element just to throw in there, right? If there isn't I was talking about being realistic, and the AI just decided to do what is unfortunately a little bit too realistic for real life. And I know a lot of you truckers who have agreed on me in the past, or agreed with me in the past on this subject, that's where my brain was going, will say once again, yes, that is unfortunate that that happens in real life, because people think they can just cut out in front of a truck and nothing will happen because they can just hit the brakes. Fun fact, trucks don't stop very quickly. Not unless, well, some of the new ones have pretty good emergency braking, but it's still not compared to a car because, well, wait. Physics are amazing, friends, and you don't want to underestimate the power of mass, especially rolling mass with a little bit of, well, metal and material, other material that slows you down in terms of brakes. We're going to see if we can buy this truck here. Get up the hill. We're making good time by the looks of things. Obviously, a little bit of slower sections. This delivery, again, is going to be significantly longer than the first episode. I will say this, and of course, I've given my whole piece on the Canada and Mexico in future expansion talk there. Comment down below what you think about that whole lot, and this is how I'll wrap that kind of segment up here. Comment down below what you think. What are your thoughts now? I've shared some of mine, different options. Again, a lot of things are open book, I think, as it should be, given what we're talking about. Comment down below what your thoughts are, and maybe I'll revisit in a future stage here in this long haul. Maybe whether that's next episode in part 3, maybe that's part 4, or maybe it's in part 5, or potentially afterwards. Let me know. I'll be interested to know your thoughts on that one. And one Windows prompt later that just decided to say we want to update in the middle of a recording, which is absolutely wonderful. Thank you, Windows, for that. It's probably just because of the length of this delivery. And yes, fun fact, this delivery is, well, to no surprise, as you're finding out right now, a lot longer than the first episode. I will admit, the first episode went a lot faster than I expected, and the main reason for that is just because of all the highway network within it. Obviously, there was, you know, other... there was some starting and stopping and so on, but not to the same degree as what we've had, especially earlier here in today's episode, and that just makes it a little bit more, well, I guess good to know, shall I say, for me moving forward with videos and, of course, the long haul series as it progresses in the future, because, yes, the longest delivery in American Truck Simulator I will probably do on an annual basis to kind of track how the map continues to grow. Does that mean that I will not do other long hauls now with this series? I'm leaving that door open, and I think a lot of you would like to see some other long hauls. They may not be the longest delivery, but they will be significantly longer than normal. And I think this is where we can kind of touch on that here with that. However, this episode is definitely a lot longer, again, the blend of it. So this is one of the longest legs that we'll have. Actually, leg 2 and 3, as far as I know, are going to be the slightly longer ones. 4 is a solid length as well, probably more comparable to the first episode, if my timing, if I remember it correctly. And then the 5th and final leg, the finale, is going to be a little bit more shorter, more of a normal ATS showcase length, shall I say, is probably the best comparison. A more traditional one, unless if something again goes wrong, which it very much could, it's going to be more along that line. Now, the reasoning for that is quite simple. I want the finale to have plenty of time for us just to kind of drive, reflect on what we've done, and so on. It will be, of course, there'll be more along the video as well, so it'll be still a decent length, don't get me wrong, but you know, there is a final delivery and so on. I have to do the parking and other elements to it as well. So it will all kind of balance out when it's all said and done, but definitely wanted it just a little bit more on the shorter side just to wrap up the series really well. And I know a lot of you will probably mainly focus on the first and final episodes. I'm not saying that that could be the case, but just, you know, based off of a little, shall I say, content creator know-how, I'm going to assume that's generally how that's going to go. But I will be happy if I am corrected by that, by you, the community, who I know a lot of you are going to watch all the episodes, and I appreciate you for that. But I have to be realistic and say that a few episodes will probably be hit more, with the final one being that. Again, it's going to be more traditional length, unless if something goes wrong. Something very much could go wrong, and probably will go wrong, but I guess we will have to wait and see. Either way, I will be really interested to know how long the final compilation video that I will do, by the way, will be for this delivery. My thought for it is it will basically encompass the first episode in pretty much entirety, the intro and so on. But then, obviously, once I deliver, it will then move on to where, well, we pick up after my little intro in today's video, and then obviously moving into part 3, 4, and then into 5 will be a similar kind of method to it. It won't be the entire video literally slapped in the timeline. I will kind of trim off the intro and outro for each of the videos respectively, just to kind of continue the delivery along and to make it more of a marathon video that way. Plus, I don't want to literally just re-upload each of the videos as they get rendered out the first time separately. That's kind of that is really cheap of me to do for you. I don't feel like that is the best value, so I will put some effort into that, don't you worry. But I am very happy to see that people want to actually sit through the full length of that video. You know what? All power to you. I will try to do the same thing, okay? Even though I am living it right now and I am creating it for you, I will try to do the same, and that is going to be an interesting one, my friends, and I will be intrigued to see how that goes over as well, because again, it just paves the way for everything moving forward. It's an intriguing, shall I say, is what the future holds for the Prime Simulation channel. I have a lot of ambitions for it, and we are growing at an incredible rate, and we're starting to see some benefits come forward, or at least I am, in terms of how I do things to make sure that production quality stays high. Obviously, I'm improving in terms of commentary, which is a big help, to be honest with you. And there's just moments of self-reflection and saying what could happen. And doing the long haul series is something that, again, many of you pointed out, not a lot of creators do on, especially, there we go, that's the word, especially American Truck Simulator. Not too many people actually do long-haul content. For whatever reason it may be, it's just not common. And you know what? I kind of want to do more of it. I've always said it, but I want to do more of it. Kind of attack that niche a little bit, while still respecting basically the rest of the series that I enjoy doing, which is a little bit more short. I don't want to say completely concise, because that's not fully the Prime Simulation nature of things, but you know what I mean. A little bit more of our traditional quote-unquote episode in length. Again, we will just have to see what the future holds in terms of 2026 longest haul delivery. Where is it going to be from? Midway through 2026, when I inevitably do this again, is this going to be a similar route? Are we still going to be heading up to Washington State? Are we going to be heading down to the southern end of California? Because we'll be starting up somewhere in the northeast. We do not know. And I guess that just will depend on how the map expansions go. It's hard to say. In terms of American Truck Simulator moving eastward and the lengths of the deliveries, obviously Illinois will be one of the farthest points. So that would be the Illinois down to California is what I'm thinking of a long haul delivery. We basically go along Route 66. That could be kind of interesting. But at the same point, Louisiana is going to be coming out sooner than later. Let's be honest, at this rate. And that kind of throws a little bit of a question mark in it as well. Will that be the next longest route? Boy, why is it 60 miles an hour through here with the AI slowing down like that? Oh my word. That was hard on the brakes too. I didn't realize they were all turning. Gee whiz. That was almost the end of her right there, my friends. Almost had a bit of a major total wreckage. That would have been an entertaining one, to say the least. Oh, what? Alright, sorry, another break. My wheel just disconnected on me and then reconnected and came right back. This is going to be a whole new element, my friends, of this long haul series, what I'm finding out. Anything above, well, let's say 45, 50 minutes of recording time so far. Turns out my computer starts to give a little bit of fuss back and forth, so new challenge unlocked. Let's complete the delivery without having a full meltdown here of the computer. Now, it's not... Again, I maximize what I can do, let's be honest. I've talked about it before with my graphics settings and so on and how the computer is, but I'm not making it spew fire. It's not running to the absolute tilt, but it's running hard. I've had the wheel act up before, but I've done other longer sessions just on my own without recording and haven't had apparent issues. This one's a little bit of a newer one. I'll give you that one where, of course, well, the Windows thing is Windows, and maybe this was actually a bit tied to it, just drivers updating in the background because they like to do it. Even if I try to pause things, it then just inevitably does it at some point. You know what? You can't really win, can you? It's just the way it is. Something is always going to happen, no matter what it is. I can try to prepare, I can try to minimize the chances of something going on, and it is just not going to work. There is always going to be something that sets it off in a way that we don't want it to, and I think today is going to be that. So as we move through part 2, or well, I guess we're in part 2, as we finish part 2, and go through into part 3 and 4, and possibly even 5, the whole survival of the Prime Simulation computer is going to be a bigger question, honestly, and maybe will be a good stress test moving forward. Maybe this is what I needed to do just to prove and potentially just test where the weak points sit in the computer besides the standard episodes. I think that could be a fair assessment, you know? This may double as a once a year long haul series that's of course broken up, but potentially just a bit of a testing ground for different forms of content that could stretch over multiple hours. Hint, hint, nudge, nudge. This could be a stress test just to make sure that, you know, what I'm doing actually may not actually work that well, because something, whether it's the wheel or the computer itself or it's just something on the sim rig, could just decide to give out and say, nah, we're not doing that, Prime. You're not paying us enough to do that. Which, I mean, I'm not paying my computer anything, but I am paying the companies that make the components enough to, well, have it work to my liking. This could be a whole new element, which, you know what? Bring it on, computer. I dare you, my friend. As I scowl at it in the corner. I dare you to hold up. Maybe I shouldn't have, because for all I know, you may give up before we reach the delivery point, which we're not far away now. We're in Farmington, which is fantastic. I've been now recording for nearly an hour. The fact that I'm still holding up to some degree here in terms of commentary is also another fun challenge, and let me know. Do you want me just to have a few sections where I just, you know, drive without talking at all and it's just the sounds of the game? Maybe chill music in the background at max, maybe not. Comment down below. Let me know what you think. I can do that. It's not maybe my style, and it's not, I don't think, the style from what I've heard of what you've said in comments before, what many of you enjoy about my channel being that it's unique in the commentary sense. Yeah, maybe not perfect all the time, but it's what makes me Prime Simulation, and I completely agree with you, and that's why I do it. But again, I just want to know your thoughts on if you'd be open to that in these long hauls, especially in some of the longer points. Now today we've been fortunate. I've been able to kind of rant away at what, well, my thoughts are on the expansion of American Truck Simulator, and there's some other things as well that we'll talk about coming up soon. And of course, if you have anything else, let me know. If there's other news that comes up, then I will be talking about that, don't you worry. But it always just begs the question, do you want to hear me not talk once in a while? And I know some of you will say yes, some of you will say no. Let me know. I'd be interested to know your thoughts. Now, as we get closer, obviously, we've been driving for quite some time today. What a great delivery thus far, and I know we're getting very close now to our rest point, which is good because we are going to need it because we've been driving straight for many hours, and probably actually a little longer than we should legally for driving, at least from my knowledge. Probably should have taken a bit of a rest at some other point, but we did not. And I guess that's the way it is. You know what? Maybe that's where the realism kind of goes out the door a little bit. It is, once again, what it is. Try to be as realistic as I can, but again, I am not perfect and I will never pretend to be perfect. Maybe one of that aspect is just the lengths of delivery. But it has been a wonderful delivery. Again, a bit of a prime rant in there, as many of you have requested. Some other chat, a little bit of AI shenanigan. What else can you expect from a Prime Simulation delivery, especially here in American Truck Simulator, where the possibilities are endless and the AI are unpredictable? I would like to see the AI improved, I'm not gonna lie. Could they be improved in many areas? I would say yes. Would it become too predictable, maybe? Then yes. Are they predictable now? In some odd way, yes. They're predictable that they're gonna do something just odd, because why not? I wish it wasn't the case, my friends. I really wish it wasn't. And for example, with the AI earlier, I'm coming up, they didn't wait for a gap. Well, I was actually basically alongside them and they starts pulling over. It's not ideal. Not ideal to say the least. Does it happen in real life? Yes. And, you know, maybe should I have backed off a little bit and let some go in? But we then saw when I was in that area and having to avoid multiple vehicles, they just kept coming. They didn't stop. I don't think that's overly realistic for the sake of how many would approach it. Do cars cut truckers off? Yes, all the time. Is that maybe the best way for it to be seen? Probably not. We gotta actually turn in here because we gotta go in this way. Interesting. Go across the cattle gate and we'll pull in here, get some fuel, and go from there. Yeah, I'd like to see the AI, you know, improved on a little bit. I think a lot of you would as well. Is that a top priority? I don't think it is. We'll just have to wait and see. How much fuel did we use today? It was just over half a tank. Yeah, about the same as last episode, I think. But some was already... Actually, no, we used more. Because last episode, I already had... it wasn't a full tank, I don't believe. So, that's the reason why that's the case. But we're going to just pull around here. And we're going to find a place to park up. Now, there's lots of parking up ahead here, which I think maybe we'll take advantage of. So let's cross the street here. And we're going to head up here. And we'll back into a spot. Don't know which spot to choose today. what? Let's go over here. There's a few spots down at the end. We'll come over here. Hit the dirt because why not? A little bit of off-roading in the Freightliner is always fine. Healthy for it. We'll go in beside the Peterbilt there. See if I can do this without scratching up the Peterbilt. Start chasing the trailer now. How's this side? It's close, but we're doing okay. It's not perfect, but it's not terrible. Pretty much how I deal with most of the deliveries here, or for that matter, reverses. We're not delivering yet. Pretty much how I deal with most of these things. If it's close enough, that's all I care. And there we go. That will do nicely. What a great episode here. Part 2, a long one. But I appreciate you sticking by for those who waited or listened or watched even all the way through the episode. I do truly appreciate it. I appreciate the support here on the series. Doing something different is sometimes hard, but I appreciate the support that's coming from it. And I look forward to part 3 as we do another long leg from my memory. And we'll see how that delivery goes. Once again, thank you all so much for watching, and I will see you in the next one.